This is a great beer. And I made it. Bit slow on the pour, but it's got a good head to it. Fantastic head there. I love the color. Very mild aroma, a little bit citrusy. The foam on top is actually very thick. Nice full body. Very light, very crisp, very citrusy. Again, just like the nose. Almost like an IPA with all of the associated bitterness. My name is Brett, aka Some Guy Who Cooks, and this is the iGulu F1 self-brewing machine. Now this is an all-inclusive brewing machine in case you don't know about it yet. It is a pressure brewing machine, so basically you're doing the bottling phase when you're making beer in this thing. That is to say, you can make things really simple by doing extract-only beers, or you can do the entire process of cooking and making your beer, and on the bottling phase, which is the last phase, you would allow your liquid to cool, put it in one of their 1-gallon kegs, and let it go. You put the brewing time right here on the screen, you let it sit for however long it's gonna take, and then you got yourself a nice homemade beer. Oh, that is good. It keeps it at a proper temperature. It keeps it pressurized. I've got a CO2 canister on mine, but you can also do an air pump. And when you finish it up, you can go ahead and make a new one. This is my first 100% personal recipe that turned out as good as I hoped. Not only does it pour fantastically, it also goes really well into the bottle. While recently visiting family, I did fill a few bottles and bring them along, and hey, we all had a great time. Anyway, I don't know what to call this one. It's got a really nice amber, almost honey color. A little tinge of orange to it as well. It's lightly nutty, it's got a really full body, and of course it has all those citrus notes I mentioned earlier. Before I show you how to make it, because I gotta make another batch already, I do want to mention that I'm gonna do a bit of a contest. If this video reaches 10,000 views, the 100th comment is going to get to name my beer, as long as that comment is family friendly. Remember, number 100 gets to name the beer. Now, let's go find out how to make it, but another sip first. Oh gosh, that's refreshing. So here's what we're doing here. We got a number of ingredients that are going into this beer here. For one thing, I've got a bunch of roasted chestnuts. We've got some whole grain oats here, steel cut oats. We've also got a little bit of oatmeal. Now this is a natural one, an organic one that's got no milk solids or anything like that. Purely, it is just ground up vanilla bean, almonds, pecans, and of course, whole rolled oats. Beyond that, we've got some cane sugar and ale yeast, specifically Verdant IPA, a chestnut that I forgot to peel, 1.5 pounds of pale ale DME, and 2 types of hops. We got Cascade and Citra. We're gonna put 2 pellets of each in the bag to start. Right here, we've got a grain bag. All of our dry ingredients going right here into the grain bag so we can steep it in the water while we simmer. Another thing to note, there are a couple different types of water you can use. You can use spring water, you can use distilled, or what I like to use, reverse osmosis. You don't have to use it out of a little bottle like this. I just happen to have a billion of them because they were on a super sale last time I was at the store. We're gonna start off with just about half of our water, get that heat going so we can get it to a simmer. And then we drop in our grain bag, just kind of act like a tea bag here, let it steep in that water, let it really get those flavors melding in there. While all that's going on behind me, just look a little closer. You'll see I got some suds in this. That's from the Star Sand. You want to make sure you really sanitize your equipment very well. That way we don't have anything going all gross on us. I have soured a few beers this way already, and trust me, you don't want to have that waste. Granted, if you sour a beer, there's some cool uses you can have for that, but we'll talk about that in a future video. In the meantime, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 2 grams of that yeast to a little bit of water that I have on the side. That way I can throw it in at the end. It's going to be hydrated, it's going to be activated, it's going to be rearing to go. We've been simmering for about 45 minutes. You can really start to smell the hops in the air. You can really start to smell the oatmeal. If you want to give it a little taste with a teaspoon, feel free to do so. I did. It's amazing. Now, in the last 10 minutes of simmering, I'm going to add 1 more pellet of citra and 1 more pellet of the Cascade hops just to get a little bit in the very last second. I'm no expert on all this, but I feel like it makes a little bit of difference based, at least I've heard it makes a little bit of difference based on when you add your hops, and this is what I did last time. Turned out fantastic. Real quick, in case you're wondering about some of the ingredients, the oats here are meant for body. Oats are a great way of adding body to a beer, apparently, and well, it seemed to do the trick, so I'm doing it again. The chestnuts, on the other hand, are experimental. Those are for flavor, and of course, the hops. I'm not a big hops fan. I don't like IPAs. I don't like beers that are too bitter. So why then, Brett, are you using two different types of hops? Well, Cascade and Citra are very interesting types of hops. They add a lot of citrus flavor. Now, using just a tiny bit gives me that strong citrus bomb in this beer without making it overly bitter. I don't feel like I'm biting into a pine tree. In the past, I have done a little bit of experimentation by using other bittering agents than hops. I tried using yerba mate. Didn't work out so well. It was pretty good at first, but the beer soured very quickly. And yeah, it's just, turns out hops is pretty necessary when brewing beer if you want one that's very stable. It's got some antimicrobial properties or something like that. And of course, it has the added benefit of adding that little bit of bitterness that you really do need in beer. Add too much or add too strong of a hops, and it's going to be a very bitter beer like an IPA. But that's why I added just a little bit of each of these types. Once it's all had time to cool off, we still want to add a little bit of our chilled water. That way we can just guarantee that it's definitely not too hot to add to our keg. Make sure you hold on to the bag while you pour it all in here, because obviously you don't want it going ploop and splooshing everything all around and losing most of your little bit of a mash here. Obviously there's still some more in the bag here. We're just going to let it drain in this stock pot, and once it's drained out fully, we can add the rest to our iGulu keg. While that's draining, we're going to add in our 1.5 pounds of pale ale DME. Now, normally for these iGulu kegs for the 1 gallon batches, you only need 1 pound of DME, but I'm using 1.5 because I really want to get, again, that extra body. I want that extra flavor. I want to have just a hint of sweetness too. But, you know, I added that cane sugar. However, that is more of a priming sugar to help it get nice and fizzy, really good carbonation. So let's add this in. A nice little note, whatever you're using to stir this, I'm using a wooden spoon. Make sure you go ahead and hit this with the star sand as well before you're into this process. Now, there's quite a bit of extract here, but that's okay. It should mix in just fine, and we'll go ahead and add the rest of our water and mix it in as we go. But first, we add the yeast water. Easy, easy, easy. Well, that wasn't so bad. And of course, now that everything is drained, we can add the rest of our water right up to that top line. Not the 116 ounce line, but the max line, the 1 gallon line. So here we go. A little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more and a stop. There we go. Let's give it one final stir. We know everything is all mixed up properly, no big chunks or anything like that. Yeah, this stuff is looking good. And it is smelling awesome. Ooh, that is some malty goodness right there. We got our lid here. When we put it on, we want to make sure that this is clamped all the way shut. I've made that mistake a few times. This is a pressure vessel, so when you pop it in here, you're creating some pressure, which if this isn't clamped, is going to shoot that liquid right out of this line here. So let's go ahead and make sure that's clamped. Push this all the way down on. And now we can clip on our nice little security blanket here. It's clipped, it's ready to go. Let's take it back to the machine. All right, guys, this is it. Final step here. As you can see, we've got the beer in here. It's kind of settling down. It's really interesting looking here. It's got kind of 3 distinct layers. You got the little bit of foaminess on top. You got the darker stuff here. And then I believe that's more of the oatmeal-y stuff down at the bottom. It's a little bit slimy, so some of that hops came through and some of that oatmeal body came through. Either way, it's going to settle real well, and then once we're done pouring all of our beers, we can get rid of it. Either way, we got it here. First part is easy. We're taking off the lid, and we're going to set it right on inside. We want to make sure that the spout is coming this way and that we have our pressure part facing to, if you're looking at the front of the iGulu, the pressure outlet here is facing to the right side. So as we set this down inside here, you'll see that we can slide this off. You can pull this down and slip our tube all the way down in. Now, we also want to get our CO2 port and pop that on. We're not going to start the CO2 yet. We're not even going to open this up yet. We want it to go ahead and brew, ferment for however long it's going to take. Either way, we throw our lid back on top. It's pretty much ready to go. What we're going to do is we're going to select fermentation, and you got a few selections here. Now, I have the master brew mode, so I can go ahead and set my own version if I want. The app isn't perfect. It doesn't always work, and doing it on here can be a little tricky. For this particular one, we're not going to do lager, whether 3-stage or 2-stage. We're going to do the 3-stage ale. You could do this 2-stage as well. I like to do the 3-stage and then just end it a day or two early. Go ahead and select brew, and we're good to go. That's all you need to do. So, like I said, this beer is gonna keep going. You got a look of it, a nice early look. You got to see the first round of it that I made. This is the second round. We'll see if it turns out exactly the same or not. I don't see why it shouldn't. Either way, great beer, but I wanna let you name it. It's all up to you. Make sure you like this video, share it, comment, and hey, if you really want to help me out, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be doing some more iGulu videos. I've also got lots of really cool cooking videos you can check out. I post regular shorts as some guy who cooks. And of course, I post all those on YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok. So one final time, if you'd like a chance at naming this beer, go ahead and comment down below. If this video breaks 10,000 views, I'm going to select the 100th comment on the video, and whatever it is, as long as it's family friendly, that's going to be the name of this beer. Stay tuned in. I'm going to be releasing some more episodes and some more recipes soon. I think the next one's going to be a toasted oak dark cherry brown ale. Yeah, keep a lookout for that. Some guy who cooks, out.